Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Svelte Radio. I'm your host, Kevin. I run a site called Svelte School, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Antony and Shawn.
I'm Antony, the CTO of Beyonk. I'm a Svelte maintainer. And actually, I can say this now, I'm currently working on Sveltekit, which is quite fun.
Ooh, that's hot. We should talk about that. I'm Shawn. I work at AWS and Temporal, and I don't really currently work on anything, but I do use Elder.js a lot. So that's fun.
All right. So last weekend, it was last weekend, right?
October 18th. I have the date memorized because I was promoting it so much.
I have no idea. Time is not my...
round circle.
Yeah, no mine.
All right. So what did you guys think? Was it good?
Yeah, I think we went very well. I wasn't sure if I was going to stick through the whole event because it was going to be a long one, and it was very late at night for me and on the weekend. But then I just found the conversation really entertaining. The talks were cool, and I stuck around for the entire thing.
Well, that's awesome. 7 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I also did stick around for the whole thing.
You cycled like 1 billion miles.
Well, I mean, actually, it's quite a short cycle because I was trying to moderate the chat from my phone whilst sitting on the bike, watching the conference, but also I had like the cycle train wrap up and everything else. So it was interesting trying to do too many things at once, I suppose. But I think I did like 25k or something in an hour, which isn't that impressive, but it's worth doing. It was a good feeling as well. Like what I found was it's surprisingly easy to concentrate when you're on a cycle trainer watching a conference. And I think that I'd like to just go to more events like that, but while cycling, because it works really well.
I like working out as well while like watching stuff.
But it's usually it's quite hard, right?
It's nice.
I've tried running and watching The Simpsons, and I can't do that. It's just impossible. But this was much easier for some reason.
Cycling is probably a bit easier. I kind of, in my mind at least, it feels like it would be easier.
Yeah, well, you're sitting down for one, I think, but also I guess you can vary the cadence quite easily. Like you can just change gear and make it easier or harder if you want to focus on a specific bit. It's not like you're having to maintain a constant all the time. But yeah, no, it worked really well. So I'll probably try and do that in future, actually. And then we watched the rest on the TV downstairs, and it was me watching and enjoying it, and my wife having it enforced upon her. But hey.
So which talks did you guys like the most? I think my favorite was like the web a la mode one for sure.
Oh yeah,
like in a creative way. I really like that one. The flying head and
I think that's an easy one.
I mean, he actually, I think, expanded. I personally do a lot of pre-recorded conference speaking, and he's a first-time speaker, and he expanded my idea of what a pre-recorded talk can do. So, like he built a thing and then played music, and then the rest of the talk had that backing music, and it's genius.
Yeah, it's nice to have a pace setter like music-wise. I don't know if you ever heard of the comedian Mitch Hedberg. He's dead now, sadly, but he always had this like weird beat going on throughout his entire set, and it elevates it. It adds like a massive dimension to it, and I'm not even sure why. Like there's just I can't remember what the beat is. It's like I think it's somebody playing an instrument called Chuck, and then when his jokes change or when his jokes start to fail or whatever, which they do a lot because he's kind of an abstract comedian, he'll just say, "Can you just sort of ramp it up a bit, Chuck?" And Chuck will sort of increase the tempo a bit and change up the way it sounds.
Such a good idea.
It's really good. It's really good way to do it, actually. So if you've got sort of, I can't remember what instrument it is now, it's ridiculous, but if you've got somebody who can play an instrument, get them along to your talk. And they can play in the background.
Pro tip.
Yeah.
Just to mention some of the others, I realized that there's a lot of curiosity around Svelte transitions and animations. I think we had 3 talks. So one, Nicolo Davis on crossfade, and then we had Mark Volkman on animations, and then we had Li Hao on transitions. And I thought that was, I always wondered that, and it's kind of like wish fulfillment for me to actually have talks like these that really explored how they work and what we can do with them.
I think it's another reason I want to mention those talks actually is because it's really, really difficult to talk on something that's kind of intricate and complex. It's very easy to do talks, not very easy, but it's easy to do talks on sort of more high level subjects, building this, building that. But when you're trying to go into complex detail about an internal of something and do a talk on it and present and maybe even live code in some circumstances, which is just next level, but it's really, really difficult. And I think prepping talks, I found that I tend to shy away a bit from more complex subjects because I don't feel like my understanding's as good as it should be to get that talk right. So yeah, I think extra props to those people who did that kind of talk as well. I think it's also, worth mentioning Luke's talk on For Me, because I think, especially since I kind of had prior knowledge of what Sveltekit was doing, it was really interesting to see how you could deploy an application to Cloudflare workers, because it's something that's really pushing the boundaries of serverless and where we're going kind of thing. So
I'll be that guy. I confess that I think that talk was above my pay grade. I didn't really I have some familiarity with serverless functions, but I didn't feel like I got the pitch. So I need to watch it again, because I didn't really get what the benefits were. Is it faster?
If you're building an application and you're responsible for deploying the application, your kind of primary goals are to get the hosting really scalable, get it resilient, keep the costs down, and make it as fast as possible. And I think that Cloudflare workers, or any kind of CDN worker like that, will fulfill all those criteria, because you're running your application at the edge, like you're literally as close to the user as is possible, really, other than having a machine in their living room that's serving only them. But you're also, you've got that resilience because there's so many Cloudflare nodes. It's full serverless because they are basically tiny little serverless workers. So it's really of interest to people, I guess, who are thinking about deploying an application and sort of determining and deciding on what infrastructure they're going to use. So I think it's valid. It will go over the head for a lot of people because they may not be in that kind of space where they'd have to do that. But I think that once you start looking at the array of serverless offerings there are out there right now, there's so many, it's really hard to pick and choose between them. And it goes all the way from kind of the sort of prior art of Heroku, where you're getting a little dedicated virtual machine to serve your application up, all the way to Cloudflare workers, which it's a very different concept doing fundamentally the same thing. So yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of people, but I think that at some point you may go, aha, I'm going to go and watch that talk now because I need to do this thing.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I know you are. To get it straight, Sveltekit is kind of built with this model in mind that we want to be able to render from within a worker. It seems like that's the case. Because I also see this happening in React land, the new meta framework that's coming out this week, Remix, from Michael Jackson and Ryan Florence. They're also adopting this model, and it seems like the new trend that's coming out. And it also links in my head to Glenn Mattern, who he's the guy who came up with CSS modules. And he's been promoting this idea for a while of FABs, front-end application bundles, kind of containers for your front end that you can ship to Cloudflare workers. So he was on this idea like 2 years ago. Everyone just ignored him because it was so weird.
Yeah, but that's the downside to being the first in the door kind of thing. Yeah. So just on those points, yeah, Sveltekit is designed to be kind of serverless first because it does seem like the most logical way to deploy an application. And it can be done pretty smoothly whilst giving you a good dev experience locally if done with that in mind. A lot of serverless right now doesn't really factor that in, and it's quite hard to develop locally because you're trying to run this impossible architecture on your local machine. The fab thing was mentioned to me recently, and I was sort of got excited about it and told Rich and stuff. And Rich had already been contacted by them a few months prior. And yeah, the concept of adapters and fab has a lot of overlap. But what we're sort of thinking is we might build a fab adapter so that you've got these first-class citizen deployment mechanisms for sort of the biggest and maybe the easiest deployment platforms. And then for everything else, you've kind of got fab because you by writing one single adapter for fab, you're opening a lot of doors. I think fab's an excellent idea. It's absolutely brilliant. And I wish I'd found it myself a lot earlier, in fact, because I think it's just going to save, especially when you haven't got the resource to build something in a platform agnostic way. You've got this adapter that will allow you to basically build for anything at all, which is great. So yeah, so fab's pretty exciting actually.
My take on it is that we have too many config files in the world, and if we just all agreed on one config file, then the world would be a better place. But that's also how you get the 15th config file when there are already 14 around, because everyone's trying to do that. But I think because every serverless provider, I guess, has their own config file, so this would be a sort of platform agnostic one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth mentioning at this point. I've looked at all these providers, obviously part of building kit and stuff, but also I've looked at all these providers for a while to determine, where I'm going to deploy my stuff to. And I think that my favorite so far has been the OpenJS architect that Begin.com uses. It's just really clean. It makes a lot of sense. It's not any known format in terms of it's not like YAML where there's a million parsers, but they do have a library you can parse it with called Architect, I think. And I just find the format really clean and logical. And if there's any one standard for config files, which I really don't think will happen, I would love it to be Architect because it's just great.
I'll provide the counter argument, which is that if you're truly platform agnostic, that's great. You can take your code anywhere, but then you're also not taking advantage of the platform by definition, right? And anything the platform can build in, you can't take advantage of it because it's going to be unique to that particular platform. So, for example, Begin offers Begin data, and you can't use that anywhere else. So, good luck.
It's very true. However, what I would say, it's almost a store argument, actually, because the Begin data interface is extremely simple, right? It's get and set, and that's it. And I think that, let's not kid ourselves, Begin data is just what's that Amazon database called? The key value one? DynamoDB. It's just DynamoDB. So I think that anybody who was to sort of decide to use Architect format, they could either not have a data element to it and just say we don't have a data element, or they could implement a key value get set over anything at all. I think it's quite abstract enough that you could implement it yourself on anything you wanted to, in fact. So yeah, I mean, I totally get your argument, Shawn, but I think that abstraction makes things a little bit harder for the implementer, but I think it's definitely possible.
Shall we go back to the front end?
Oh yeah,
yes.
Tell me more.
Let's talk about Plenty. Did you guys try this before the talk?
I have not. I checked out the site, and it's a cool static site generator. I just haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, it's on my to-do list, but then so are many things. It sounds like a great idea. It's sort of less developer centric, which is really nice. So it's something I hope to do soon, but it's not. I haven't had a chance to look at it in any depth yet.
Yeah,
I feel bad. I'm gonna go try it now because it's a site builder. They're betting their business on Svelte, just like Buddy Base is, and we got to try all these things. Otherwise, how are they going to succeed, and how is Svelte going to grow without them? So
I did actually try it I think maybe a month or two ago. Just downloaded the starter, their example, and it seemed like a nice thing. But I didn't try anything more complex than that. But from the presentation, it looked really nice, very simple, very easy to get going. There were a lot of static site generators at this conference. Well, two.
Then there's Elder.js. I think that's the other one.
But I guess that's why I'm saying it's not developer centric, because it feels like Plenty is designed a bit more for maybe a business minded person who doesn't have the technical skills to maybe use Elder, because it's pretty complicated for non-developers. And I think that's something that's really needed is and it's been done a million times over the years. Someone will get it right. Building websites, it's not going to ever produce the kind of website that you might get built by a dev team, but it certainly can build something that's fast and light and appealing and responsive and flexible enough that you can build at least an MVP, or maybe even run your entire business on it, depending on how small you are. So yeah, it'd be good to see something in that space. So hopefully Plenty is that.
Yeah, I think Plenty is so Elder.js is a bit daunting to get started with, and compared to that, Plenty seems extremely easy comparatively, at least.
Yeah, I'll co-sign that. Elder, if I didn't have Nick Rees on tap for support, then I would not have got anywhere from Elder.js.
Same. But I think speaking of Nick, his talk was really nice. I think it showcased the strengths of Elder.js pretty well.
It did, and it showed me kind of, because I knew of it and I knew roughly about it. I didn't know much about it in depth, and I was looking forward to the talk because I wanted to actually see it, building a sort of simple app in it. And it is exactly what I thought it would be, which is, it is specifically designed for SEO. It's not something you'd use to build your application website, your an online shop or something necessarily. It's something you build to build an online estate of of highly indexable content for marketing, it fits perfectly, but a very different offering to say Plenty anyway. So
I haven't told Nick this, so I'll just think out loud and reflect my thoughts here. Building a static site generator for SEO, that's a weird branding thing to me, because SEO to me sounds like make it fast, make it statically rendered, put all the right meta tags, and then write great content. That has nothing inherently to do with the static site generator. That's where I really struggle with this idea. For him, also he really cares about massive scale. So even his demos are just always a lot of pages, and you can really see that it's built for size. So to me, the build for size and the islands architecture, like the whole Zero.js by default thing, that appeals more to me than build for SEO, because SEO to me sounds like just set some meta tags.
Yeah,
I think I agree there.
I guess for my takeaway was that what it's doing is actually generating a lot of content that's indexable without having to write all that content manually. So taking a set of data and giving different views of that data, and then positioning those views of that data in that a search engine can quite easily interpret and use, and Google's going to sort of pull out the little questions and summaries it has more easily from that content, and it's going to have more relevance because you're taking. It's like when you're applying for jobs and you have a bunch of CVs, resumes, and you tailor those resumes for each job. So in this resume, I'm a strong JavaScript developer. In this resume, I'm a strong Node developer, kind of thing. So I think that's for me where I see Elder.js fitting.
I should probably also want to shout out one thing on which I changed my mind, which I think that's a very useful thing for other people to think about. So I used to be very excited about this idea of MDX, like you write Markdown and then you write some Svelte inside of it, or you write some React inside of it, and it becomes a React component or a Svelte component. I think I've changed my mind on that, and now I don't use MDX anymore. And Elder.js has this idea of shortcodes, and I think that's actually more future-proof, and I think that's what Nick Rees also calls it. And I really believe in that now, I think, because it separates the idea of like I can have that content with the shortcode, but I can choose to re-implement the shortcode in whatever other feature framework that I wish to have. And the only thing that I have a dependency on is the format of like what's the opening and closing tag of the shortcode and all the metadata that I provide there. I don't need all the other stuff because I'm going to probably take it out anyway into some kind of layout component or some kind of reusable replacement for like H1, A tag, whatever. So I think I changed my mind on that specific thing. So I just figured I'd share it. I don't know. Obviously, Penguin may not be too happy to hear that, because I was a big supporter. I was like, oh yeah, MD Specs is like the future. And then now I was like, maybe not.
Well, yeah. Well, shortcodes is a thing from like the WordPress era, right? Probably earlier than that even. But it's one of those things like I'd completely forgotten about shortcodes, like after I started using Svelte. But then once you realize that how powerful they actually are for static content like this, or like generating content from other content and putting it into a shortcode, like counting stuff and all sorts of things, it kind of becomes a must-have, I think, when you start using them.
I think one thing that I wish people were more thoughtful about is how graceful degradation looks like. For example, if I was blogging in MD Specs, right, then I'd have a whole bunch of like different Svelte components in my MDX in my Markdown. But if I was going to render that to RSS, what does that mean? I don't know. What is that? It's going to come up like a jumble of stuff. But then when people implement shortcodes, they'll do things like, okay, I want to embed a YouTube video inside of my content, right? So I'll say, shortcode, open tag, YouTube, and then the ID. But that also doesn't degrade very gracefully. What I actually want to do is paste the YouTube URL. So if someone comes along without that MDX parsing, the shortcode passing, they can still just click the URL.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You could probably write an Elder.js plugin for that.
My problem with this is not Elder.js. It's actually Dev2. I use Dev2 as my CMS, and then I syndicate it to Elder.js.
Oh, okay.
By the way, that's an SEO hack because Dev2 forwards all the canonical traffic to your domain. So I don't know how long this is going to last, but it's a very, very quick way to rank very highly on Google.
I'm gonna edit this out. Keep it for myself.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. Should we move on to some of the other talks that we saw? We talked shortly about MD Svex just now, or Shawn did mention it. So we might as well talk about Peter's talk, the replicant. That was mind blowing to me. I had no idea how REPLs work behind the scenes and how you bundle stuff in the browser. Nuts.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The fact that people like this just casually do things like this for talks is mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's way above my pay grade for sure.
I think mine too.
It was great though. It was nice in a way because it introduced like so many topics in a kind of beginner friendly way in a sense. Like he used TypeScript in Svelte, for example. That's not something you often see. He wrote a roll-up plugin. Like all of these things to me are not something I know a lot about, like writing roll-up plugins or bundling and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was well explained. It was obviously the whole thing was live coded effectively. It's quite a feat. It's one of those things again, that goes back to you can do a sort of high level talk or you can go in depth on something, and that's just massively more challenging, I think, especially then to add live coding as well. So yeah.
I think for listeners, I kind of stress the business value of doing something like this. The whole point is to decrease the barrier to trying something out. If I have to download anything, you've probably lost like 90% of the people who visit your site and hear about you. If I can hit your site and then see something live immediately and just play with it, then you have a higher chance of people getting it and then actually trying you out on their local machine. So one example that recently happened was Tailwind. They've always had some sort of, on their landing page, some animation of what the concept is, but they also recently released a Tailwind playground. And that's also another process of like, we have to have some kind of compiler in the browser type of situation. But it lets you try it out and it also lets you share it. As much as the Svelte REPL is so useful within the Svelte community, I generally feel like Svelte would not be as big today if Svelte REPL did not exist. So it's a similar thing to basically everything in developer tooling. Like if you are trying to come up with a new format, like a fad bundle, like show me how to validate and verify my config file, or like I'm doing some consulting for temporal.io, and we want to show like a different programming model. And right now people have to pull a Docker container and run it just to see what it's like. What if they could just run it in the browser? So I think this technology is like a really good foundation for demonstrating anything. And I think I'm on Penguin's README, which like he actually cares about docs, which is amazing. And he's got like the Ruby playground, the Go playground, Rust playground, TypeScript playground. Like everyone prioritizes this for good reason.
Yeah, I think speaking of like the Svelte REPL, we should probably try to make that indexable somehow.
One thing I want to do is like save to Svelte Society or something like that, with like a good name, a description, and then people could heart it, and then we could sort by like most favorited REPL, or just like you want an example of a modal. Here's like 10 different modals all in a REPL. I would love to do that
somehow.
Yeah, I mean, so the Svelte REPL, you can save and you can save endlessly and paginate the results, but that's about it. It really lacks functionality to delete, to rename, to reindex. To share, add sharing links. Is not as straightforward as it could be. So it would be really cool to build a kind of top list of those. I think it'd be a really good feature. So if anyone's out there listening and fancies a task, a little project, there you go.
I'm keen on that. Like I want to pick it up as part of my AWS work as well. So
it's a race, Shawn. It's a race. You got to race the Svelte community.
Some other talks we did. We had a talk on data visualization, saving democracy with Svelte. That was not the title.
I think that was my tweet about it. So I just kind of like was the hype man on Twitter.
It was a good talk. It's always nice seeing data viz and Svelte. And
then also given the two recent IPOs for data exploration companies, that's super interesting, isn't it? Because it's kind of a hot topic right now. Well, the Snowflake is one. You know Snowflake?
No.
Well, so Snowflake recently did a big IPO, and then Palantir did one straight afterwards as well.
Palantir, I know. Isn't that known as one of those?
They do a lot of defense.
Yeah.
It's slightly controversial. I honestly don't believe that. I haven't looked into it enough to form a judgment, so I try not to judge.
But yeah, so it's interesting because that data visualization piece was specifically interesting, just because that's a real world use case of Svelte pushing the bar a bit, because data viz is quite difficult. To get everything in a browser in a performant way is tough. The moment you start adding loads of nodes and loads of data points, everything starts to slow down. And I think therefore you could really showcase the advantage that a compiled framework and also something as lightweight and well thought out as Svelte can provide to data visualization. I think that's it's the perfect use case, in fact.
I think there may be enough here. So I see a lot of adoption among data viz people. Like we had Amelia Wattenberger on this podcast. Actually, during the conference, Moritz Stefaner, I enjoy his podcast, Data Stories. He's a well-known data viz guy. And obviously, I think they use Svelte a lot for data viz at the New York Times. And I think there's like a French, Innate Echo is also a data viz shop using Svelte. I think there's enough here for like a dedicated event for Svelte data viz people to really focus, shine a light on this and share tools. Pancake is another one that didn't get a showing like this summit, but like it seems like it's picking up steam in data viz.
Pancake is the one, I'm thinking the right one, aren't I, where it basically renders in SVG first. So it's actually a server-side graphing framework, which is quite rare. I think that's quite a special feature that should be noted.
Data viz conf, that would be neat.
Well, when Svelte Society is big enough, we can have multiple tracks, right? Ooh. We can have a data viz track, and we can have the sort of deployment track, and
yeah, we actually talked about that yesterday in the retro, about having potentially multiple tracks. I don't think we actually decided on anything, but
yeah, I don't think we committed to that right now, but it's possible in the future. I think we're very inspired by Next.js Conf, which was also happening yesterday, and they had four tracks, and I'm a bit conflicted about it because it's this whole. I'm very familiar with this dilemma for conference organizers, because if you have a single track conference, then you have a shared experience and everyone can chat with everyone else. Whereas you have a multi-track conference, you have more choice, but then you also give people more choice stress, and you have a sharded experience where if you went to a particular conference, you don't necessarily know if anyone else shared the same experience as you did.
But I'd also, to sort of on the counter of that, I'd say that if you've got a linear conference and there are talks in the middle that you're not interested in, then you've got to sort of break up your day a bit more. Whereas if you're a data viz person, then you can kind of focus on the data viz track. So yeah, I think it has advantages and disadvantages. I also believe, as Shawn's mentioned, that the non-fragmented experience is a richer experience and a better experience. So I would say right now, especially, that certainly tops any reasons for having multiple tracks.
So I went to a conference in London where we had two tracks, right? And there was no particular theme. It was just like track A, track B. There was one talk on React hooks, and then the other talk was testing in React. And like the entire audience just like left the testing track and just went to React hooks. It was just so sad. I sat in the testing talk just out of sympathy, but I was just feeling so bad.
This also happened.
That's horrible.
It happened at the Bitcoin conference blockchain cryptocurrency conference I went to. Loads of different tracks on different tokens and stuff, and of course, the main stage got taken by Roger Ver shilling his Bitcoin Cash that no one cared about. And I've never seen a large room so empty in my life, because it was just about him.
Oh, it was empty?
It was empty because it was Bitcoin Cash and no one cares about Bitcoin Cash.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's
so sad.
So yeah.
Isn't he Bitcoin Jesus? Okay, but we don't have to turn this into
He was, yeah. I mean, no, he's Bitcoin Cash Jesus. He latched onto a fork, bought loads of them, multimillionaire, but no one else cares about that token.
It is crypto space, man.
Yeah, it's madness. It's picking up again.
It's cool again. Crypto and Svelte are correlated.
I've been talking about this. We should do a Svelte coin.
Yeah,
this is probably not. Yeah. No.
We can mine in the browser with our ripples.
Yeah.
Svelte is so fast you wouldn't even notice.
Yeah, right.
Quick shout out to Annie's talk, Meowflix. I think that was very I always, I think in speaking you always have service X for animal Y. Corey Quinn always has Twitter for dogs or Twitter for pets, something like that. It's just like a nice fun thing, and so Netflix for cats is always a good theme. But the extent to which she committed to this theme was really impressive because she has basically cat versions of every single popular movie, like Meowvatar, The Cat of Wall Street, Game of Paws, Eat, Purr, Leap. Yeah, it's just great. Well done.
And the talk was nice as well. Like the intro was awesome with the flying, like Star Wars, like cats, and I don't know, pretty neat.
Yeah, conferences are a mix of entertainment and education, and maybe sometimes we skew too much towards like education, or just like, I want to see, I don't want to stare at a code screen all the time. And I think
I agree. Yeah, more creativity is nice. It's like the talk from Svelte Society Day, like back in spring, the creative coding session was awesome.
It's super nice to get to convey a complex message as well with something like cats. I think that's quite a skill. It keeps it more digestible.
There are a couple of other talks as well, like the so you want to pick a router. That was great on like pretty much the fundamentals of routers and his router as well. And we also had one on modern fetch in Svelte using stores. Also a great like example of a custom store, I think.
And it's something that I think a lot of people talk about as well. Is how can I basically build data fetching into my store? So yeah, nice to cover off a few questions.
Very good example. So there's actually one talk on this on the Svelte Summit website that wasn't in the conference. I don't know if you guys noticed, but learn Svelte using React. So that talk was...
Did you release it today?
Yes, I'm going to release it today. Unfortunately, I didn't... There was some issue with getting the file to me. So he had uploaded it on some service that didn't allow it to be downloaded. So I didn't have time to sort that out, unfortunately. So we're going to release that as a bonus episode. Exciting. A few more talks. We have unlocking the power of Svelte actions. Yeah, this is the one.
Favorite them.
Definitely like that one.
Yeah.
But I think he has some really good ideas for actions that I've never thought about. I think people like use CSS.
Yeah, I think also like the fact that you can use the lifecycle hooks inside of the actions is not something I had considered. Like after update, for example, or it was after update, right? I don't remember. But yeah, great talk. And good ideas for actions as well. And then the last talk, we have Introduction to Svelte as well, and the Svelte animations.
I think he felt a little bit blindsided by Sveltekit.
Yeah,
maybe that could have been communicated a bit better. But I've enjoyed Svelte and Svelte.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've also they've all sort of, these other frameworks have had some very valuable ideas that we're considering heavily when building Sveltekit, and I think that we've now got all these people involved to some extent. So hopefully it's more palatable to them that we've kind of taken a bit of their crown away. But no, I think they're all happy to help out because obviously it's fostering the best possible experience for Svelte users. So yeah, so it's all it's all working well. I appreciate that it feels like blindsiding. The problem, of course, is that you can't really pre-announce something before it exists. Rich did go away and build Sveltekit, what you sort of saw in that demo, in a ridiculously quick time, as is kind of his MO. But I mean, it sort of appeared out of nowhere for us too, based on kind of discussions we've been having and mulling over and for a long time. And suddenly it appeared, which is great. So it's very hard to announce something when you also don't know about it yourself. But yeah, absolutely. But it should hopefully sort of bring some of these ideas together as well, make something really really cool and nice. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, same here. We had a couple of beginner talks as well, like the Zen of Svelte. That was nice. Like the intro talk by Morgan.
It was very Zen, and I think he did his research. He put in some previous talks from Rich. The coffee cup was nice. I'm not sure what I learned from it, apart from like it's Zen.
The production value was nuts. Like it looked so good. With like the moving TV background and
it's probably like a DSLR or something.
Yeah. Then we had also prototyping testing with real data. So that was Daniel. He's the guy who's doing the newsletter as well.
Ah, that's right. I'm pretty keen on like making the newsletter more of a thing, so that we as a community don't only stick on Discord and Twitter, I think there's probably a lot more people to reach beyond just Discord and Twitter.
All right. So the last talk of the conference was Rich's futuristic web development. That was new to everyone, pretty much.
Just to set the context for people who may not know, like the backstory, like when we organized this conference, like we put out a bunch of CFPs, and we're always like, obviously Rich is always on the table and just like, like, hey, if you're free, like, we know you're busy and there's an election going on. There's more important things in the world than a JS Framework conference, but if you ever wanted to submit something, and then I think he like never responded on that until like a week before.
No, it was less than that. I think it was just like 2 or 3 days or something. No, more. Yeah, maybe it was a week. It was very like short notice for sure. But we managed to get it in, so that was nice.
Well, it's funny because I guess around that time he said, I'm going on holiday. And so he went on holiday, and then when he came back, Sveltekit was written. So I'm not sure what kind of holiday it was, but
I think we can probably ask him about it on next episode. So he's coming on.
Oh yeah, teaser. We actually booked it for next week.
Yes, we could touch on this, I guess. Like, what is Sveltekit? Can you give us an overview, Antony?
I can. So Sveltekit, as it currently stands, and again, we've not really said much about it. It is still kind of closed off to the sort of the public view. The reason being that it's very hard to work on something when you've got a lot of people weighing in at the same time. And right now we have a bunch of maintainers and it's already difficult. So to have everyone else involved as well would be extremely difficult. And it probably wouldn't move. So I think what we've done is we've tried to close it off, build a kind of baseline and then produce that baseline. And what that baseline currently looks like is essentially a serverless first framework. It will handle, it will be very modular. So everything is a bunch of modules plugged together. The idea being kind of pull in and pull out what you want. It will essentially do, we hope as much as possible, it will be a like for SAPA right now. So making the migration path from SAPA to Sveltekit very simple. And it has various abstractions over deployment. So solving that problem, I've built a SAP application. Where do I put it? How do I host it? More that kind of is almost built in as a first class citizen via adapters, which people know a little bit about. That will take the compiled output of the Svelte app project, the Sveltekit project, and turn that into a specific layout and manifest in that it can be deployed to a variety of providers. That's the current status quo. It can handle completely statically rendered things. It can handle dynamic pages. I believe what we've got to now is a point where you can actually have an application composed of both those types of things. But yeah, and I guess the reason you've not heard too much about it and there's not been like a roadmap publicly or anything is because that brings along with it a level of commitment. And given the schedules, the ever-changing schedules of the maintainers and the people working on this that are not maintainers right now, what that means is we end up with overcommitting and publishing a schedule that probably won't come to fruit in the way it will, and potentially promising things that never materialize or when they appear are very different. So it's intentionally kind of a vague idea with a little preview right now of what it looks like. By all means, run the node modules, play around with it, do what you can. But right now, I think the best thing to do is just accept that that's how it is. And when we get to making it public, it'll be a very exciting time because everyone can investigate how it works. And we expect a huge influx of modules based on what people have been saying. So that's pretty exciting. And just hope that day comes sooner rather than later.
Let's hope it comes soon, yeah. So if you try this out, don't like post about bugs on GitHub about it. Probably, right?
Yeah, the likelihood is the bug is known by us. The likelihood is that the bug, by the time you write that GitHub issue, it will have completely changed anyway. So the bug will no longer be relevant. That's kind of the reason for... there'll be plenty of new bugs. For every bug, we can make 2 more bugs, right? But yeah, it's a rapidly changing landscape with no particular kind of... I wouldn't say it's directionless, but it's obviously there's lots of different directions and experiments going on. So there will be bugs. There are definitely dragons, which is a famous Rich phrase, I believe.
Yeah.
I should mention a couple, because I work in like public communication, so I know that this is the point where we talk about frequently asked questions. So the first thing is the fear, uncertainty, and doubt from essentially deprecating Sapper and not having a replacement. So it's important to understand that the maintainers of Sveltekit and Sapper are the same people, and they have large production apps like Antony, and they are very keen on a smooth migration path. And Rich is also very aware that like leaving Sapper in limbo like this for a long time isn't a good thing for Svelte. So he wants it in weeks rather than months. That's the first FAQ. Then the second FAQ is also why not Vite and why Snowpack. And I think the main answer is Vite is too tied into the Vue ecosystem, and Snowpack is more agnostic. And yeah, those are the two FAQs that I saw on Twitter.
Yeah. Vite is an interesting question because obviously Svelte works and it's really good. The fact is that if we start depending on external things, then we can't make the decisions that we want to make in the most optimal way because we're always at the behest of some other person who maybe has different interests than we do. So yeah, not at all a slight on Vite or Vite or whatever it's called. I think it's brilliant, but it has some baked in decisions that you can't change, and we need to have the flexibility to change the decisions. And Snowpack is excellent. So it's one of those things.
It definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and Snowpack is headed in exactly the direction we want to be in. So yeah, but again, like Snowpack's not set in stone. It's looking very probable right now, but it's not set in stone. Everything is still very much in flux.
This is our second event, conference, whatever you call it, online. The first time around, it was Svelte Society Day in April. And, I think something that we did last time that we didn't do this time was these live REPL offs. Because it was more live, we could actually, interact with Kev as he was struggling to keep his internet up,
sweating profusely.
And we had some fun, countdown timer challenges. And then this time around, I tried to get that started again, but essentially picked a challenge that was too hard. But I think it's something that it's a tradition unique to us that we'll probably try to keep up next time.
I think I'm pretty much decided on doing this like in a more live version next time. So going back to Svelte Society Day style, but using like something like StreamYard that doesn't really rely on my connection, so we can avoid the technical issues. And even if we do get some technical issues, I think that's fine. I think it's worth the trade-off.
People very understanding.
Yeah, and it's worth the trade-off of getting like these live, fun kind of sort of games going between the talks. I think that's the route we'll be taking. Speaking of doing that, there will be another Svelte Summit in spring.
Oh, we're saying spring now? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I guess I just decided as well.
No, I also posted the Mount Fuji thing.
Oh,
so,
yeah, you did with a hush emoji, like the shush, like the keep quiet.
Hush.
Yeah,
hush. Nobody saw it. But no, I think we enjoy it. I think it's a good thing for the Svelte community. Got a lot of attention from people who don't currently use Svelte. So I think this is something that we're doing a really good job for, and we want to keep up the momentum.
Yeah, it was super fun. And next time it will be even more fun because I don't have to do that, like the manual emailing and stuff. So that will be great.
Some other things from our retro, we want more women speakers. We only had Annie this time. I think we're gonna try to make more of an effort to invite more women and just make it clear that they're explicitly welcome and to showcase their talents. I tried to contact some others, but I think I did it too last minute, so we didn't manage to do it this time. But it's a priority for us. The event was kind of long. It was like 7 hours, and definitely people were kind of tired by the end. So we all just went to sleep instead of having like an after party. So probably we're going to make it shorter, and that means a bit more selection pressure than already it was this time around. And so I think there should be more room for it shouldn't be just twice a year a conference. It should be like small meetups elsewhere as well. And we can host everything on a YouTube channel and spread the knowledge. So I'm very keen on what can we do outside of the conference?
I don't know many other frameworks that have like a kind of a specific YouTube channel for their stuff in the same way that Svelte or Svelte Society does. So I think that's probably something we can leverage in a good way.
Oh yeah. YouTube is the second biggest search engine, so we should dominate SEO.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Are we gonna start doing some black hat SEO now on like with keyword stuffing and all of that? I know nothing about that.
Learn CSS 101, and then it just uses Svelte without telling you.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. All right, let's move on to picks.
Picks.
And Antony was very excited.
I'm very excited.
You're the keenest.
My pick, bizarrely, is the British plug, right? It's the UK plug. And the reason that it's a pick is because I was recently reminded, I knew about this anyway, but I was recently reminded that this is the best plug design in the world. And the reason being is because of all the safety features it has. So, for instance, the longer earth pin that opens the slots for the live and neutral. So when you're putting the plug in, because it looks kind of janky and too oversized and stuff, when you're putting it in, there's no chance of you touching that live pin because the gates aren't open. There's no connection until it's far enough in that your finger won't get there. So that's pretty cool. It's big and chunky like this. You know, they're usually this size. I know that Apple tend to reduce them, but it's so that you can get a good grip on it and pull it out, and that's fantastic. Obviously, they all tend to have earths. You know, apart from a few devices, they all have earths. There's like a million things they've thought about when building this plug, and the net result is it's not particularly pretty, but it really works well. And I think the other thing is, you know, you can buy these kid-proof adapters to put in your plug sockets, and you can buy from IKEA and stuff like that, and people put them in there and they block up the holes on the socket, but it's actually an anti-pattern, that, right? Because the sockets have this health and safety built in. The gates are closed. You can't ram anything in the holes unless you open the earth first and then ram something in a hole, and that's not going to happen. You know, a kid is not going to do that by accident. So those little adapters you can get for plug sockets are actually anti-pattern because there's a potential to actually try and remove them, break them off, leaving the gates for the live and neutral open, right? So they're actually worse, they're less safe than not having anything in the sockets, which just blows my mind. Why is that? Why is that a thing? Oh, and they're all fused as well. They all have a fuse in them. You unscrew this screw here, and there's a fuse in the left there. It's a great design. So I think it's like a tidbit, but it's worth noting that this is a genuinely good plug design. We don't just love big ugly things sticking out of our walls. But yeah, that's my pick.
Nice. That's a strange pick.
No, I love that he's so passionate about this.
Yes.
It's good to appreciate the design of everyday things, you know, that classic book. And I think it's picking up again with 99% Invisible, the podcast that also focuses on the design of everyday things. And I think they just put out a book, so much so that my dad heard about it. And I was like, wow, you heard about it. That must mean it hit the mainstream. The only follow-up question I have is, the American plugs, usually they're 2 pins, but there's a three-pin version. Does it do the same thing? Because it kind of has the long line.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it does. You'll see that you haven't got this. You see this, like I've got this plastic bit on the pins here. So that even if I get it halfway in and stick my finger there, I can't touch the actual pin. But I see yours doesn't have that.
Right. It doesn't. No, none of them have that.
But also, without the earth, the US plug tends to wobble out the wall, doesn't it? I remember seeing that in America when I was there.
Plugs are hard.
I'm not defending it. I'm just. I'm curious,
it's genuinely. When I was mentioning, we were talking about this the other day with some friends. Actually, that's what we do. Okay, that's just who we are. But essentially, he's in Australia, right? He's in Australia, and they also have a similar plug design to us now. A bit more recently, obviously, but it's actually based on an early design of the US plug from 1972, I think. But all it is exactly like the US plug, but the pins are twisted to a slight diagonal, right? So that it doesn't fall out the wall as easily, and it has an earth pin. And I believe, and I can't verify this because he wasn't entirely sure, but I think it also has the gate system so that the earth pin opens the 2 other gates. But yeah, so the Aussies are up there with it, but come on, this is the best one. This is why it's in Hong Kong as well, right?
I'd argue it's the European one is better, but yeah, that's just me. Anyway, my pick is almond butter. Have you guys had almond butter? It's the best nut butter you can get. Love it. I've been recently. I've been like doing.
How many nut butters are there?
One for each nut. So peanut butter.
That did not come out the way you intended it.
No. Sorry. peanut butter, almond butter, pistachio butter, pecan butter, macadamia nutter.
And have you scientifically trialed all of these?
I have
in
not,
a blind
no.
test?
but I love them. Like I've recently been eating a lot of smoothies, and nut butters go very well with smoothies.
They are good. They are good in smoothies. That's a good pick. I mean, so it's interesting because my wife is now doing sort of dairy-free stuff, and it's using these butters and these milks alternatives. I would love to share in that with her and support her, but these, especially almond butter, I think it is, and soy milk or soy yogurt, it has a very bad effect on my stomach. So I have to stick with dairy. It's a good job I'm not intolerant, because a lot of those butters are not good with me at all. So, but yeah, they're quite delicious actually, especially almond ones. Cashew butter is another one, nice one.
I feel like I've been not adventurous enough with my butter.
You haven't tried these things? You should definitely.
I'm still at the margarine butter boundary. I'm not at the advanced stages of specialized
had
butter.
Peanut butter?
Yeah, but I don't like it. It's too sweet, too sticky.
Really?
Oh yeah, maybe.
There's a special phobia for peanut butter sticking to the back of your mouth.
Really?
It is claggy.
It does get stuck
Claggy?
In your mouth, right?
The Whole Earth one is great, because the Whole Earth one's just, there's no like palm oil or anything in it. It's just ground up peanuts, and that one's it's not sweet. It's not salty because you haven't put any salt in there or anything.
Yeah, if you do get a nut butter, you should definitely get one that's just 100% of the particular nut. Yeah.
Okay, this is the peanut butter podcast. Arachibutyrophobia. That's the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your
Interesting
mouth.
Interesting name.
It's a very common thing. It's
I can see that.
I don't know.
I can see that.
There's two phobias I memorized. That one, and then the hippopotamonstrossus crocodilophobia, which is the fear of long words.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
Ironic.
Yeah.
So Shawn, what's your pick?
Okay, my pick's the opposite. So after you had your almond butter, then you should work out more. So my pick is working out. I did a poll on Twitter. How often are you working out right now? 43% out of 3,000 votes said they're not working out at all. And obviously there's a lot of stress going on with life, with working at home. But, at some point it becomes an excuse, and we still have to take care of ourselves no matter what the situation. And I definitely was not doing that. I'm not judging other people, because I was also not working out. But I started working out again recently, and I'm feeling better. And I just want to encourage and remind people that they can do it. Go from 0 to 1 times a week. About 27% of people work out 3 to 5 times a week, and that's probably the right amount. So just keep doing that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a good one, because I actually work out more during lockdown, and it's occurred to me how little I worked out before lockdown. So yeah, definitely worth getting into.
Yeah, I think there are memes like circulating around where you're like, it's the pre-COVID sort of picture of a cartoon man, and then there's an after picture, and it's either like this huge fat person or it's like the super muscular one. So you either go down the path of working out a lot more, or you go down the path of eating a lot more. I think that kind of holds true for a lot of people. For example, me, I have trouble doing things in moderation. I always do things like 100%.
Well, so, reminder to be healthy and to eat well and to not electrocute yourself. These
definitely
are good picks from us today.
And also eat almond butter. All right. And on that note, thanks for listening, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.